In this video, I'm going to be doing a quick review with the Yeasion e-bike. And the reason why I say quick review, because there will be a long-term review once I get at least 1,000 miles plus on this e-bike. But overall, I can tell you a little bit about the company because I have actually brought 5 other e-bikes from them over this past year. And so far, all of them have been flawless except for one. One, I did have an issue where the rotor was actually really worked badly, but I was able to call them. She requested pictures of it. I sent her the pictures and she sent a new rotor within 2 weeks, and she responded right away. So they've been a great company so far, at least from as far as dealing with, because most other Chinese companies that I deal with, they'll tell you take videos, then they'll tell you take another video, and then they'll drag you out for 3-4 months and stuff like that, saying the parts back ordered and stuff like that, and just overall hard to deal with to the point where you don't even want to deal with them anymore. But this company, as well as Arista Motors, the 2 best companies I have dealt with so far, at least as far as purchasing e-bikes off Alibaba, and I highly recommend them. The also reason why I like this particular one, I got this one personally for myself, not for sale, is because they did attention to detail when they built this. It isn't like other e-bikes. Most e-bikes, they don't put these actual bearings in there, and they don't put spacers or bearings in there at all whatsoever. And what happens is this rear shock, of course, hangs because it's rubbing against this metal right here, and there's no bearings or spacers or nothing like that where it can go smoothly. On this one here, it's nice and smooth. You don't get no clunking or anything like that when you're riding it, because they actually put bar bearings in there, and they also put bar bearings on this bracket down here, and you can kind of see how it is right there. It's not just shoved in between a metal, and they have a bolt like that other e-bike I showed in one of my other videos where it's like bent towards the thing, and then of course your rear suspension doesn't really work properly because of that. Nope, they did a good job on this. Also, the rear rack, very nicely built. It has holes where you can actually mount a basket, or you can even put a compartment if you want to back there. Rear light's good. It has turn signals and everything too as well on it. Seat, it is a little bit, firm, but it's not uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I have ridden this thing so far 11 miles to 15 miles every day and stuff like that, and my butt doesn't hurt. It actually is pretty nice to sit on. It could be better. It's not gonna be like a Cloud 9 or anything like that, but it's decent enough. It'll work. I can always swap it out later if I have to. Now the brakes, which is honestly my favorite, you can see there, these are kind of weird brakes. I really don't know what brand brakes they are, but they've been phenomenal. I have not had a squeak or anything from these brakes at all, and I haven't even, you can see there's a lot of dust and stuff still on them. And like I said, there is no squealing or squeak, even if you stop hard or you don't stop, like, you know, where you're not stopping all the way, so then it still rubs. Most brakes will squeak then, but this particular one, no squeaks whatsoever. I can 2-finger the brake action handle and lock up the wheel completely, which is nice. They are phenomenal brakes. Honestly, I wish I knew what brand these brake calipers were, because I would actually buy another set for my other e-bikes. That's how good they've been. And you can see they're using the Shimano style pads as well too. And you can remove this bolt right here. If you have to take the pad, you don't have to take the whole entire caliper off to actually change the brake pads and stuff. They've been phenomenal. And then here's the handle. And you can see it uses a reservoir. And this does not use mineral oil, but it actually uses .3 brake fluid, which is pretty nice. It actually uses scooter / motorcycle type brake handles, and like I said, I can 2-finger it and it stops it on a dime, and I haven't lost any pressure or anything like that, because a lot of the Tektro brakes and other ones, over time you have to pump them because you'll lose pressure and stuff, and this one has not been a problem. Sorry about that. I honestly wish I knew what brand they were, because I would actually buy these sets for other bikes and stuff like that. They've actually been very good. Now, as far as the front suspension, No, it does not have lockout or rebound, but this is not an off-roading bike. But shockingly, it's done phenomenal too as well. It's actually surprised me because I thought this was the part here that was gonna suck, because normally when you get these cheap forks, normally they'll do the pogo stick effect where if you brake hard or you go ahead and jump a curb or something like that, they'll bottom out and you'll get the clunking, you know, of course, and stuff like that. These here, I have not been able to bottom out. I have taken it off curbs. I have taken off, obviously, you go steep enough curb, it probably will bottom out then, but as far as doing minor curbs, as far as going like on your regular commute and stuff like that and braking hard, they have not bottomed out, and they do actually go down like they're supposed to and stuff like that, and it does dampen as supposed to, but they're not bottoming out. It is a little bit of a stiffer ride. It's not like as bouncy as like other shocks, but they did that because you do have dual motors. And one of the problems is when you're using dual motors and stuff like that is that when you're going up on an incline, you can actually lose traction on that front wheel because it'll tend to come up on you. On this bike, it has not been an issue whatsoever. I have taken this thing on 20% inclines without absolutely any issue whatsoever at all. And I always have traction on that front wheel even when using it in dual motor drive. That's the other thing too, is it has actually a cutoff switch right here where you could turn off the dual motors and just only run this in single motor drive if you want to too as well, to save yourself some battery. Now as far as the battery pack goes, I actually had them custom built these things, because normally they don't give it to you like this. Well, now I think they are, but before they weren't. These are actually 22 amp hour, and they are definitely Samsung cells, because I actually opened up one of the pack to make sure that they did put brand name cells and weren't using no cheap Chinese cells as I requested them, because I had them custom built this bike for me. As far as the cost of the bike itself, I paid a little over $1,700 after all said and done. And you can get it on Alibaba, of course. Now, I did go with the dual battery, so I'm getting 44 amp hours. I did do a discharge test, and it's giving me about 40 to 44 amp hours, like as advertised. So the battery packs have been good. The BMS adds your typical BMS in there. It does have balancing, but it has a slow type of balancing, but there is balancing resistors and stuff like that in the BMS when I looked at it, because I did a quick look just to see what they were using on them. Later on, I might upgrade the BMS in there and put a Bluetooth BMS so I can monitor the battery health with the individual rows of cells and stuff, but that will be down the road. But at least they're using brand name cells. It is padded well. They're using thick enough gauge wire and stuff like that. I have no complaint. Then the nickel strips is pretty good too. They can handle up to 30-40 amps, no problem, about getting hot spots and stuff like that, because that's one of the things about some of the cheap Chinese battery pack is they'll use too thin of a nickel strip, and then you develop hot spots, and that's how batteries catch fire. That I'll do on a whole nother video when I explain how to build battery packs and stuff, but at least on this bike they're good. Now controller, they're using, kind of see a little bit in there. I'm not gonna take the seat off because it's kind of a pain in the ass, but they are using dual 9 MOSFET 25 amp controllers. You can also get this bike with 30 amp controllers if you want to. To be honest with you, really don't need it. It's been, like I said, I get plenty of torque and everything else like that, and I even maintain going up 15% inclines at 26-27 miles an hour. I only lose about 1 mile compared to flat ground and stuff, which is honestly impressive, and you'll see that when I go and do the ride on this bike. Now they're giving the Yeasion display, which is the color display right here, and let me go and pull out the key so I can show you how it looks. Okay, and here you go. We'll turn it on. Oh wait, hope if I turned on the battery, of course. You gotta turn on both. And the batteries, the way they're wired is they're not using a balancer. So the way the batteries are actually wired is one battery's going to each of the controls, which is actually the way you're supposed to wire a dual motor set, so you get all the available current to the controller instead of trying to split both batteries, and then you can only pull about 20-30 amps out of both batteries. So I kind of prefer it that way, because now I can get the full 25 amps out of each of the batteries and get the 50 amps instead of just 30 amps. And here, I'll go and show you what a battery balancer looks like here. Let me go and grab one if I have one right here somewhere. I thought I did, but yeah, here it is. This is what a battery balancer is, and typically what most companies will use is they'll use a cheaper version. It's a very small one. This is actually a decent one right here. But what it is they'll take your two batteries from here and split it to run. But it's not just splitting. The reason why you need action equalizer balancer is because what happens is if one of your batteries get discharged, let's say you're at 49 volts and the other one's at 52 volts, that other battery is going to act like a charger. It's going to try to charge that battery. Now the problem with that is when it tries to charge that battery, it's not going to charge it just at, 4 amps, 2 amps or whatever. It's going to try to charge at 15 plus amps, which in turn could destroy the battery pack itself over time and degrade it. So that's why I use one of these equalizers. What these equalizers do is they use MOSFETs in there to kind of drain off some of that current. So it equalizes the battery, but it's not giving like the full 15-20 amps. Instead, now it's only giving it like, let's say 4 to 6 amps or whatever to each of the batteries, so it can safely charge that other battery instead of pushing all the inrush current to that battery itself. You absolutely need one of these if you're using a dual battery setup like this. But what they did instead was they just wired each of the batteries to its own individual controller, so this is not needed. Now I prefer not to actually use these because this itself will of course draw current itself, and now you're losing your capacity due to one of these, which is the reason why it's in a big heat sink like this. So if anything, I try to avoid these. But let's go back to the bike. Let me go and just throw this over here real quick. All right, and we'll show you how the display is. Let's go and turn on the display here. Okay, we'll turn on the key. It does got ignition, which is really not needed, but here you go. And then there's your display. Now, things I don't like about this display is it doesn't show you like how much watt you're drawing, and it doesn't show you the voltage that the battery's actually at either, which I don't know, maybe I gotta figure it out. But it does show you the odometer, of course your trip, and then your max speed that you were going when you're doing the ride and stuff like that. To turn on the headlights, you push this here, and you can see they got a halo type light too. And the light so far, I do a lot of night riding because I get home at night. It's been more than accurate. I haven't had no problems whatsoever, because on some lights they don't put out enough light, and sometimes you won't see a bridge coming or something like that until you get really close. This light here, I'm able to see it as good as my Garmin, which is a few before I hit way before I hit it, and therefore I can see wherever I'm going and stuff, no problem. And I can see it lights up everything around ground too and stuff like that. And of course you got more than sufficient rear brake lights too, and people will be able to spot you even during the day like it is now. You'll be able to see that, that you're braking stuff, which is important on a bike. You want to be able to be seen too as well, because if you can't be seen, then people are likely gonna hit you because they won't hear you coming. So, and that's the problem with e-bikes versus a motorcycle. Motorcycle, you can hear the motorcycle coming. On an e-bike, it's pretty much silent, so then they won't be able to hear you coming and stuff like that, which is a whole nother problem in itself. So make sure you get good lights, of course. But there's the display. To get to the actual setup, and hopefully I won't push it in walk mode, we hold that down to there, and there you get to your advanced settings. You just hold the positive and negative to get to your advanced settings there, and then you can use this of course to scroll through your settings like voltage, the inch of the tires. I set it to 23 at factory. They did have it set to 28. Obviously they did that to make it seem like the bike goes faster than what it really is. But if you want it accurate, like to GPS, speedometer and stuff like that, set your wheel size to 23. They are 4-inch fat tires, but I know 23 gives me more accurate speed reading and stuff like that. Now to get out of there, you just hold down the I, and then that goes back to your main menu, of course, which is pretty simple display. It just tells you the miles per hour, your battery bar level and stuff like that. I do gotta figure out if you can get the voltage and the wattage. It's one thing I don't like about this display. I like it when it actually shows you the wattage and stuff like that, that the actual battery's actually drawing and stuff like that. I'm gonna see if I can figure that out down the road. But there you go, it is a color display. You can see it at night clearly and stuff, of course. And turn it off, you just hold the power button and it turns off. Now the other feature this e-bike has, and here you go, I'll pull the key out, is it does have alarm on it. And you can arm it. If I go ahead and move it, hold on. Yeah, usually it works, but hold on, let me make sure I actually armed it. Okay, I think it armed. I didn't think I armed it the first time around, but let's try it now. There you go. And normally if someone moves the bike and stuff like that, it'll warn you, and then the next time around, if someone actually keeps rolling it, then it's just gonna go off and it sounds like that, of course. And there you go, that's what the alarm sounds like. So we'll turn it on. The other thing too is someone tries to stick a key inside here or play around the ignition, like I go and stick a key now, it's armed. If I turn it, there you go, it also sets the alarm too. So kind of gimmicky, but it does work, you know what I mean? It's not too sensitive to the point where it's going to annoy people, because there's some alarms where if you even just touch the bike, it'll go off and stuff. And of course, if you're at work and stuff, that's going to annoy people over time, then you won't use the alarm because of that reason. In this case here, it's pretty good because you literally have to roll or move the bike for it to go off, which is what you want, of course. Now honestly, it won't do anything to stop deep, because if they're going to roll with it, they're just going to take off with the bike, of course, so they can roll with the bike, and they'll just ignore the alarm. But if someone, I guess, is around or whatever, it'll probably warn them, hey look, they're trying to steal the bike or whatever, you know what I mean? So in the way it does that, I wish it had like on the sabotage control where it has a motor inhibitor, which what it does is shorts the phase in the motor, so that way they can't roll the bike. On this one, because it's simpler controller and stuff like that, they don't have that. It's one of those things I wish it had, but oh, like I said, it's more of a gimmick than anything, but it does have it, which I'm shocked. But overall, at least close to the 100 miles I put on it, it's been pretty good. So now we're gonna go for a ride pretty much. Okay, so here we go. You know, here go for a commute, so you can just see the top speed and how the bike sounds. But overall, this is actually gonna be my new daily pretty much. I just like this bike a lot because it got the nice upright position with kind of like the BMX style handlebars. Here we go, we're coming to the stop sign, so you'll hear how the brakes sound too. And you can hear how that just grabs nicely. I mean, it does a really good job. It's probably the best brakes I have seen on an e-bike to date, pretty much. And I brought in $200-300 brakes and stuff like that, and they were not as good. I mean, you got some of the quad pistons where you can kind of finger it and stuff like that, but if it's too sensitive, it can also cause an issue too. Alright, so here we go. And you can hear those calipers are absolutely silent. Most brakes, if you're braking lightly, you'll actually hear a squeal and stuff like that. And on this bike here, it's dead silent. Here you go. And we come up on the trail that we always do, where I take other e-bikes on pretty much, just to kind of give it a fair thing on it. The nice thing about this bike too, it actually has, which I'm not using because there's no cars, but it does have turn signals and stuff like that too. And thankfully on this one, it only has it on the rear where you actually need it. Now the motors are a little bit louder, but there's a reason for it. It's actually using the HX motors, 1000 watts, and these are not like the profane 750 watt motors that they normally use, which is usually like actually only 350, because they got a small stator, small magnets and stuff. This actually uses bigger magnets, bigger stator and everything else, and it got a lot of torque. Way more torque than the Bavane 750 motors that I'm used to using. So these are really good motors, and I have used these motors on other e-bikes, so I know this motor well. Right now I'm running in dual motor mode. You can actually switch it off. You can see there, coming up on this bridge here. And I'll show you some inclines and stuff like that. Matter of fact, we're gonna take a 15% hill on it, and I'll show you how it performs on that. It performs really, really good. Here, of course, I could go fast. I just don't typically go fast on the trails because this is a shared trail where people are walking to. You can see it gets up to speed really quickly. So if I slow it down, and let's slow it down here a little bit. So we'll slow it down and then we'll go ramp it up. You can see there, it gets up to speed very quickly. That's why I love these motors. And they did seal the motors too on both sides. It actually has a gasket and silicone around the actual plates of the motor and stuff, so water ingress and stuff. So they did a really good job building these motors. Like I said, this is a true 1000 watt. It's not like the other gear hubs where they claim 750, but it's really a 350, and they just put 750 on it pretty much because it has the same stator size and everything, and same size magnets and stuff. They might round it different. That's probably about it. And here you go. And overall performance good. Of course, we're not really on anything bumpy right now. We'll get on there when we get on the streets. Yeah, motors are a little bit loud. I mean, of course, you're gonna get tire noise and all that because they're 4-inch fat tires, so never gonna be quiet, especially if you're using stubbies. It's just kind of how it is. If you want quiet, you go with slicks, obviously. Then that will quiet it down. Then you can upgrade the controller to also a sine wave controller, which will kind of get rid of some of that motor noise too. But it's using metal gear, so these motors are always a little bit louder than the ones that use the nylon. Well, even the Super 73, they don't use this good of a motor. Super 73, they only put, like, for example, the cheap ones with the nylon gears, and that's one of the things that break on them a lot because I repaired them, is the nylon gears end up stripping out over time. Then you get the click-clack sound on them. Let me go and turn the turn signal on too. And then we'll go and turn right here. Now, as far as like actually pedaling itself, like if you had to pedal this bike, obviously because the style bike it is, it's not the best to pedal, but it's actually better than others. It's better than pedaling my foldable bike. As far as, we'll go here. We'll go jump this curve right here. You can hear it just handles it beautifully. That's why I love this bike. I mean, honestly, I'm not saying it just to hype this up because I paid for this bike with my own money, but this bike is better than most other bikes I have tried, at least as far as the style goes, even the real Super 73. It's just been flawless, and I already, you can see I got 94, 95 miles on the odometer already. And yeah, we're going a little bit fast on this, there's no people. And that's the real speed, because I actually calibrated to 23 inches instead of the 28 they had it, to make it comparable to GPS actual speedo. And I always slow down around here because you never know. I always see people walk around here and stuff like that. Like I said, it is a shared trail. And then once we get over the next part, we'll go up a bridge and stuff. As far as the derailleur and stuff like that, it's usually, of course, bottom of the barrel. It's not using anything special, but it does shift smoothly for what it is. It doesn't have no clutch or anything like that like you would find on higher end bikes, but it does the job, and you can always upgrade it if you want to. So like I said, this isn't really the kind of style bike you would want to really do extensive pedaling on anyway, just because it sits low and the seat height isn't optimal for it. Now, you can actually order from this company one with an actual seat posts and stuff like that. They do make different variants of it. They also make one that's like the Super 73 where the long seat and stuff, and you can also get pegs and stuff if you want to. So there's different configurations. You can actually, they can customize it kind of to the way you want to too. So that's the nice thing about it. You know what I mean? And in that case there, then you can get more your seat height, and you'll probably be able to pedal it better because now you're not so cramped up into the pedal. But I'm about 5'11", and I can still pedal it no problem. It just kind of gets crampy after a while, which I'm doing right now. You know what I mean? Because it's still low, but it's not horrible either. Like, I pedaled this bike actually about a couple miles once just to try it, and yeah, definitely not as good as a regular bike. You have to kind of push back on it, and then you can kind of get, you know, cadence going on. But you know, like I said, this bike you're mainly going to use with throttle. It's kind of more like a scooter utility bike than it is a bicycle. And that's on all of them. That's like the Super 73, even some of the other brand names and some of the foldables and stuff like that. They're really made more as a commuter bike. This isn't something you're gonna, you know, look into actually buying or off-roading or anything like that, even though sometimes like Super 73 don't advertise it for off-roading. No, you're not gonna do it. This is more of just a commuter. But a very good one because it got the dual motor, so it overcomes, and it actually performs sometimes better than my mid-drive going up steep hills, which is actually quite surprising. And here you go. We'll go ahead and stop it to where we can get it really low, and then we'll just climb the hill. And you can see there, even going up a pretty steep incline and stuff like that, it goes up with no pedal assist. And also about the front wheel, a lot of people have this myth that dual motors, that the front wheel will come up, and that is true in a way. In certain frames and stuff like that, you got to be careful with, because I had a blue bike that had dual motors and stuff like that, and the front wheel will tend to come up on that bike. On this bike here, because I guess it has the 2 batteries and everything else in the center and all that other stuff, it kind of balances and it keeps traction on that front wheel, and I only have to lean forward just a little bit. I don't have to stand up on it or anything like that to keep the wheel on the ground, which is nice. It's actually done pretty good, and that's why I like this bike. For a commuter, it's a great bike. And here you go, and then we'll go and take some street, which has some bumps, of course, and stuff like that in there, and it's also a pretty hill. It's like a 15% incline over here, which honestly most of my 750 watt bikes can't even do, because you'll go 0 miles an hour, and I have to take the side street crossing those expressway intersection, which is dangerous itself, just because. Oh, okay, good, she let me go. But I had to take those, what do you call it, sidewalks there, and it's kind of dangerous because you got past where people get on and off the expressway and stuff like that, because you can't actually go up the hill on that, because the bike will go 0 miles an hour pretty much on this, even a 750 watt and a true 750 watt bike I even tried on there, and it just doesn't do it. You got to either pedal very heavily, walk up the hill, or you got to take the sidewalk pretty much. On this bike here, I have no problem. I can maintain 26 miles an hour going down there, which is actually very impressive, because in all honesty, I haven't really actually seen a hub motor that's like under 1500 watts that's been able to do it that fast, and this one does it. And this one's only 2 1000 watt motors. But here we go, enough talking, and it's time to show you. Here you go, and you can see right there, we're just gonna go up there full throttle. Let me turn off the turn signal, of course. You can see we're going up there 26 now, and here's the incline right past this line. You can see it handles it like it eats this hill, which is funny. I mean, it eats it like if it's nothing pretty much, you know what I mean? Like there is no hill. You know, you lose 1 mile and that's about it. That's impressive. And the nice thing about this front fork too, having dual motors, because normally we have a front hub, I always worry about the fork actually snapping. But on this one here, this fork's actually designed for this front motor, and they did put dual torque arms and all that other stuff, and the actual torque washers on it too, but it got very thick dropouts, and it's not gonna break on me, I'll put it that way. You know, they're even thicker, I think, even than the rear ones. So that's good. But you can see there, made it up that hill. Now I'm off the hill and I'm more on the flat. And made it up there going 25, 26 miles an hour at a 15% incline. So it's done phenomenal. Of course, I'm probably pissing off a lot of people being on the street, but they got most of that sidewalk closed, so I have no choice. Because they're changing out the poles over there, so I have to take the street. Doesn't matter, it slows down over here anyway where they're doing the construction. And that's not me squealing, just to let you know, that's actually a car behind me. That wasn't the bike. There you go, and here we're kind of parked. But no, it's handled well, and I take this route almost every day and stuff like that. And other routes I take in like about close to 20 miles on the first day and stuff, just to test and stuff like that. And you don't even feel the road on this bike. The suspension, the rear suspension, actually does what it's supposed to do. I am gonna go and put mirrors on it. Car to pass so I can let him go. I don't want to be rude. There you go, he let me go. That's one thing you gotta make sure about when you're on the road with cars and stuff like that, because sometimes they'll go and get aggressive and stuff like that. So I always give them a chance to, you know, go first, so that way they don't gotta wait behind me. But yeah, today I kind of got to take the street just because most of the sidewalk was closed, and at least they opened up that side, I see, but before it wasn't. They had the signs out and stuff like that, but we're coming to the stop anyway, and there you go, there's a large bump and you don't even feel it. Let's just go here. Okay, but yeah, overall it's been a good bike. Like I said, I haven't had no issues with it. The other guy that has this bike has about 2,500 miles on it already, and he hasn't had no issue but to change the tire and the brake pads pretty much. You see there, we're going over a lot of bumps, and yeah, you can feel it a little bit, but it's not to a point where it vibrates your teeth out. The suspension actually does good, and you don't hear it bottoming out or clunking or anything like that. It's nice and smooth. That's what I like. I'm actually quite surprised about how good the suspension actually performs. But we're coming at a stop right here. So this will pretty much conclude the video as soon as I come over here. Oh, they tore all this up, of course. But this will end the video.